मांगूंगा, दे दीजिएगा. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Okay, we'll wait 2-3 minutes and then we'll begin. Our day looks like how many questions, except in prelims, how many questions we expect from 5 to 10. Komal, I've sent it to the team. I've got your email also, I know. I've sent it to the team. That will get resolved soon. Maybe tomorrow. What do I have to do? Yeah, we have part A, which is 10 to 1. Then part B, 2 to 5 p.m. And part C, which is 5:30 to 8 p.m. This is how we will go about it. And I have to finish deindustrialization plus famines plus drain to finish a certain section, which is economic history. Once economic history is done, we move towards the concept of education, philosophy, and consolidation of the Raj. Yes, Aditya, I can. Don't please write anything in doubt section, because write it here in the chat. Don't write it in doubt. Again, somebody. Anurag. Sir, I missed my weekday classes. So you can revise here. Still waiting for the number. 1 more minute. How to study and keep in memory of your class. Revision. Revision is the key here. Revision is the key here. When we study Act of British today, most probably this part or this part. From 1773 to 1857, we do all of them. Which are you saying today? Okay. So yesterday, what we covered was the concept of land revenue, and along with land revenue settlements, we covered commercialization. So there's a certain type of relationship which was established between these two in the timing and the way it creates a cascading effect. Now, commercialization is linked to deindustrialization, and deindustrialization is related to drain, and drain is related to famines. So we have to finish the next three important processes which happened, and thereafter we will talk about the education policy, philosophy, and then thereafter constitutional acts. Ragini, I know that. Not the right person to ask, but I know that, and it should get resolved soon, very soon. We are cognizant of it. Okay. Now, what is deindustrialization? What is deindustrialization? Can anybody tell me what is deindustrialization? A hit, a hit to domestic industries, phasing out, diminishing of industries, stopping capitalist economy, downfall of indigenous industries, going back from tertiary to primary, reduction in industrial activities, manufacturing of goods via machinery, decline in traditional industry. Okay. And what was the reason for this decline, destruction, whatever you said? What is the reason for that? Why did deindustrialization happen? Science, jobless, promotion of British goods, to promote the British goods. You're telling me why? You're telling me why did they deindustrialize? I'm asking you how. Overestimation, commercialization, forced commercialization, exploitation of laborers. The raw materials were taken to Britain. New inventions. The British became the net exporter of goods rather than an exporter. Okay. Poverty, revolts of farmers, loss of market, destruction of handloom sector, only raw material production allowed. अच्छा ठीक है. You have a certain notion. You have a certain notion of deindustrialization. So let's break that notion. Firstly, the word deindustrialization as it is problematic because there were no industries in India that you will deindustrialize to. This term itself is problematic. Deindustrialization means when there is destruction of industries. But when deindustrialization happened, there were no industries. So this word in Indian context has a specific connotation. Deindustrialization in Indian context means the destruction of traditional handloom sector or traditional industries, if you want to call them traditional industries, which basically means weavers. Weavers. So deindustrialization in Indian context has a totally different connotation. Deindustrialization maybe in different contexts would be different, but in Indian context, it means colonial destruction, colonial period, weavers losing their jobs and going back to agriculture. Now, This is the first point. Deindustrialization. Today, most of the world is deindustrializing. For example, Britain is deindustrializing, America is deindustrializing, China in certain parts are deindustrializing. But this word itself is problematic. But let's go with it. We give it a specific connotation, and thereafter we call it destruction of traditional handloom sector. This is the first point. Now, if you ask anyone, and I asked you also, but the which is the question, how and why? The answer mostly comes an external factor, which is the fact that deindustrialization happened because there was a industrial revolution happened. As you said, raw material was taken, the raw material was gone. In a way, what you're implying is that if raw material was present in India, India would never deindustrialize. That if raw cotton was available in India, India would not deindustrialize. That is the implied logic of your argument. Yes or no? This is the implied logic, right? That if there was raw material in India, then India would not deindustrialize. Lack of technology, and yes, okay. So whoever wrote the concept export, import, raw material, your implied logic is this only, that our industries would get a boost, as one of you said, that if the raw material was not systematically taken. Basically, the way India was getting looted of commodities, deindustrialization would have easily not happened, and India would have survived, and our weavers would have survived. Am I telling you what you want to say? Yes or no? Yes. China doesn't have lithium, but it's the biggest battery manufacturer because it imports a lot of things. Yes. Sir, can we say British want to make India a good market to sell products for the British? That is also good. But Pradeep, that is not a cause, that's an effect. I'm asking you the cause. Everybody has to be a little bit more. Morning, 10 o'clock, have to be a little more. Right or no? You say yes or no. That what I'm saying is yes or no. That if raw material never went, weavers would have never died. This is the point. I'm trying to establish something. Yes, no, yes. No. Okay. So some of you agree, some of you don't agree. Now the answer to this question is that irrespective of raw material, deindustrialization has more internal factors and external factors. And what I am going to tell you right now, you will not find it in books. This is based on a very established historian. His name is Prasannan Parthasarathy, and his book is called Why Europe Became Rich and Asia Poor. And there he introduces and gives a very modern and very interesting way of arguing how deindustrialization actually happened. So you'll not find it in Spectrum, you'll not find it in Bipin Chandra or any other book you're referring to, except for my book. So let's try to understand how Prasannan Parthasarathy or how the new research tells us how deindustrialization happened. Raw material is actually immaterial because the factors are so interconnected that it would have happened irrespective of anything once the British came. So before the British, it is not technology, it's not that. It's after the British, there's a certain cascading effect which is created, which creates deindustrialization. Let's try to understand this. Everybody's ready? Can I start? Still trickling into the class. I want you to be now a little bit more attentive. This is very important. Okay. Now, pre 1765, the situation is as follows. If you see a weaver in the rural countryside, he is at one time a weaver but he's also a part-time agriculturalist. And therefore, as a part-time agriculturist, throughout the year, the weaver modulates between being a weaver and an agriculturist. Be it off season of agriculture, he is here, and if it is the on season of agriculture, he is here. So very small land holding, but has an additional income or resources out of agriculture. Out of agriculture. Basically, our weaver was never a proper weaver. Weavers were part-time part-time agriculturists and weavers. And this basically creates a cushion. This creates a cushion because this additional income could be very, very significant. Could be very, very significant. But the weaver's advantage, across the world, or rather we'll say why India dominated and our handloom sector dominated the world was its quality, but most importantly, very low price. So the reason why Indian calicos were in demand were two things. They were better made, but at the same point of time, they are also cheaper than any cloth available. And that is why we have a comparative advantage here. Comparative advantage. If a product is cheap, what does it tell us about its input cost? What does it tell us about its input cost? Input cost will be extremely low. Now let's try to understand this part of the story. So a weaver is an agriculturalist and he has additional income. But the reason for low input cost and cheap cloth was because though the nominal income of a weaver in India was low vis-a-vis a European weaver, but his real income was high. His real income was high. Basically, if I'm comparing a weaver in London, Paris, and India, I am now comparing the incomes. Now, very honestly tell me, do you know the difference between nominal and real income? Everybody. Honestly tell me, do you understand the difference between nominal and real income? Shreya says no. Sidhu says no. Shantu says no. No, 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 no. Nominal, current, real is actual. Again, that is little bit means what you adjust it with inflation. Again, you don't know it. Not exactly. Okay. Now understand this. I give you an example. Now, for example, there's a person A and there's a person B. He earns 1 lakh rupees and he earns 50,000. Who has more income? A or B? A. Now, he stays in Delhi, he stays in Agra, for example. Now, his rent is 50,000, food is 10,000, travel is 10,000, miscellaneous expenses 5,000. So, this person's savings becomes how much? After adjusting for everything? 25,000. Very good. Now, the same person, 50,000 salary, rent is 10,000, food is 5,000, travel is 2,000, miscellaneous expense is 2,000. How much is his savings? Now, whose income is more? B. This is called nominal wage or income. This is called real wage or real income. Real income is not directly related to purchasing power, but yes, uh, if you look at it through certain countries, then it becomes purchasing power parity concept, PPP. But I'm absolutely teaching you the simple concept of nominal and real. Nominally, your wage could seem to be very big, but real income may be actually lower. Real income actually may be lower. And if you do it across countries, for example, India and USA, we have rupees, they have dollars. And for example, I earn 100 rupees and they earn $100. Now, will 100 rupees be equal to $100? No. So I have to adjust them for the inflation, the exchange rate, and that is called PPP, purchasing power parity. Purchasing power parity, wherein I am adjusting the income for exchange rate. Now let's go back to India. You understand this concept? Do you understand this concept? Yes, sir. Okay, very good. So now understand that the nominal income of the weaver in India is low and the real income is very high. But why? How is the nominal income low and real income high? And the reason for that is called grain wage or grain prices. See, in London, in Paris, and in India, weaver earns 100 pounds. In Paris, he earns 100 francs. And in India, he earns 100 rupiah. Now, nominally, they remain or look the same. Nominally, they look the same. But the income of India, the real income of India is very high. Why? Because if I convert this income into grain wage, it turns out to be extremely high. There's a inverse relationship between grain price and grain wage So in India, grains are sold at a very low price because we are an agrarian country. Agriculture was always our mainstay. So here the grain price is 1 pounds per kg. It's 1 franc per kg. And here it is 50 paisa per kg. So if I calculate grain wage, how much grain wage will the London operator weaver have? Just convert it into kgs. How much he will have? 100 kgs. Very good. He will also have 100 kgs. But the weaver in India has 200 kgs. So his grain wage is double that of a person coming from London and Paris. And because grain wage is very, very high, now the input cost is very low. Because our weaver the Indian weaver can survive at much lower income as real grain income is high. Are you getting my point? When you earn, what is the first thing you earn for? When you earn, what is the first thing you earn for? Food to eat. So because your first most important expenditure is met with such a less income, that input cost may be high, but you still can sell it at a very cheap rate. Understand this point? I'm bringing everything together. Weaver has additional income from agriculture plus grain wage is very high due to grain prices being low, plus raw material is available equals to Indian weaver dominating the world market with the best cheap cloth. In a way, the income of the Indian farmer is higher in purchasing power parity. But I am not using PPP because that's a very post-colonial concept itself. But the point is, I'm talking in grain wage because you can't talk up, the exchange rates are not that constant at that point of time. So you can't talk about PPP. Weavers have agriculture as a comparative advantage. No, the comparative advantage is here. This is the first most important comparative. And then second, basically they have a backup also, and they have the simple point is, because in India grains were so cheap, a weaver could sell, for example, Indian weaver could sell at 1 pound per meter, but a London person could only sell it at 5 pounds a meter. And that is the difference. That you can sell at a very lower cost, because for us 1 pound was a very big amount. Grain price is grain at which purchase. Yes, at the price which you will purchase grains in India. I have told you that there's an inverse relationship between grain price and grain wage. If grain price is very low, grain wage will be what? Grain price is low, so grain wage will be high, and vice versa. So understand this point. I have been this is a very sophisticated understanding. You'll not find it anywhere. The fact of the matter is that the Indian real income is so high because of the fact that the weaver can sell the cloth at a very cheap rate because the real income is high. But the question is, how is his real income so high? His real income is high because of the fact that the grain wage is very, very high. And that in turn means that they can survive at a much lower cost. He can sell at a much lower cost. Vis-a-vis means in comparison to. In a way, yes, how Indian and Chinese products are there, sure. Because Chinese government or the Chinese manufacturer will give his laborer very low price, a very low wage. That is why Chinese products are cheap, because they don't give their wages, their labor, the exact wage, and they are using inhuman conditions and in a way slave-like conditions. So it's about where can you save your input cost, and the input cost is this only. Grain wage means wage for survival. No, grain wage means that if I convert all of your salary into grains in kgs, how much will it be? Is this making sense to you? Are you now able to imagine why would a weaver in India dominate world market for centuries? Since the time immemorial, since ancient India, since Mahajanpada period, since 600 BCE till this period, 1765, that would be 2300 years. For 2300 years, Indian weavers dominated cloth trade. And the reason is because their real income was extremely high. Their grain wage was very high. Grain wages, I earn 1 lakh rupees as my salary. What is the rate of wheat atta? What is the rate of atta today? Or for example, if I want to buy gehu, what is the rate? Can anybody tell me? How much is the wheat per kg? Ashirwad 60. No, I'm telling you raw. 30 rupees, for example. So how much wheat can I buy from this 1 lakh rupees? How much wheat? So my grain wage will be how much? Grain will be how much? Three tons, or to be precise, 3333 kgs. Now, I earn $1 lakh. Wheat price in America is dollar, let's take 50. So if I actually, not even 50, if I actually convert this into, if I say that it is $30, how much is $30 in rupees? How much is $30 in rupees? What is the exchange rate today? $30 would be how much? Approximately 3K. Let's take it as 3,000. Now, how much is my grain wage? My grain wage comes out to be 30 or 300 kgs. Now you see the difference. I get 3 tons of wheat in 1 lakh rupees, and I get 300 kgs in America. Are you getting my point? Though it's not accurate, but I'm trying to tell you something. I am basically doing a purchasing power parity only. I'm doing a PPP. I have a basket of things to buy. How much that I can buy from that money is what matters. With rupee 1, our weaver can buy 1 kg dal, 1 kg wheat, 1 liter oil, 1 kg of vegetables. Because I have to see, shares, how much it compares as if the exchange rate is adjusted for. Now, can in 1 pound you can buy all of these things? Can in 1 pound you buy all of these things? This is the difference. Basically, it's purchasing power parity, but purchasing power parity is based on exchange rates. Here, it's not exchange rate, it's grain rate. Because exchange rates could be manipulated, Prasannan Pathsathi said that we cannot believe the gold and silver standard at that point of time. It's a controlled market. So rather than taking exchange rate as a way of converting, he made grain prices as his understanding. It's bit confusing. There's nothing, and you are now confusing yourself. I'm just saying to you that agriculturalist is weaver is an agriculturalist. Additional income comes from here. Then his real income is very high. Real income is very high because grain prices are low. Grain prices are low, so his grain wage is very high. So he can buy more for less, and therefore he can sell for less. That is what I'm trying to say. I'm not complicating it. You are trying to bring in modern economics into it. You are trying to bring in modern economics. Anupali, there's nobody to give you the PDF and the PPT, so wait. Are you understanding what I'm trying to say here? Can I now talk about how deindustrialization would happen? What happens post 1765, which is deindustrialization? Are we all on the same page? This should not be difficult. Okay, now, what is the first advantage? First advantage is weaver is agriculturalist. Land revenue settlements over assessment. Weaver cannot meet demand by part-time jobs, becomes landless weaver, and therefore additional income is gone. His first advantage is gone because full-time agricultural labor or agriculturists are not able to manage the demand. You really think a weaver who was just doing part-time agriculture, he can actually become in any way a proper agriculturist and meet the demand? You try to guess it. The demand is so high that he will for sure default. And when he will default, he will lose the land. And when he will lose the land, he will automatically lose the income. And if you are in permanent settlement areas, you don't even need to default. In permanent settlement area, you have automatically lost the right. So in permanent settlement, there is automatic removal of land rights. Basically, you become from a peasant to a tenant automatically. And if it's a Rayatwari sector or Mahalwari, you will eventually for sure default. But all of our weavers were either sitting in Bengal or sitting in the Bombay or The UP sector. So unfortunately, they fall under permanent settlement automatically. So does the first comparative advantage stand, which is having additional income? No. Very good. Now let's talk about the second advantage. The second advantage was high grain wage and low grain price. Land revenue settlements lead to commercialization. Commercialization means from shift from grains to cash crops. In that case, what is going to happen to grain price? Grain prices will increase quickly. Now, commercialization in turn means that grain price is up, so grain wage goes down, falls quickly, and therefore a real income falls. Real income falls. What is the impact on input cost if real income is going to fall? Okay, input cost will increase and price of cloth will increase. Now you see the beauty. This advantage is also gone. This advantage is also gone. So now, one second. Additional income gone plus real income decreases or grain wage decreases. At the same point of time, industrial revolution 1780 1800 will happen. Machine made cloth is produced. Cheap quality but huge quantity. British sell the cloth very cheap. Input cost goes up. Cloth becomes expensive, and this equals to deindustrialization. Now you tell me, where does raw material come? Where does raw material come in? As it is, the British did not use Indian raw material. British industries were not based on the concept of raw material coming from India. It was all American cotton. All American cotton. Now, out of these three factors, are all of them external? This is an internal factor, this is an internal factor, this is an external factor. These two are because of land revenue and commercialization. Now, do you get it that all of this is actually related to each other? Are you understanding what I'm trying to show you here? You will not find this type of understanding anywhere other than Prasannan Pathsati, which you will not read, which is an academic level book. Deindustrialization has been miscategorized by raw material going out and the concept of industrial revolution being the principal reason. Industrial revolution was a subsidiary reason, not the main reason. Cheap quality is because quality of cotton or technology, because machine made cotton can never match handloom, but the point is nobody wants that. If the Lancashire cotton and the Manchester cotton can be sold at 1 rupee per meter and our weaver is sending it at 8 rupees per meter, then why? I'll give you a very simple example. Are we clear with regards to this concept? This is deindustrialization for you. Yes or no? In the first advantage, the weavers, though they became permanent agriculturists, they could not meet the demand and over-assessment. Yes, either way, Samishta, they will lose. If they give up on weaving, they will not survive in agriculture. If they give up on agriculture, they can't survive in weaving. So either way, they're gone. Then why British wanted raw cotton from India to sell it to the French, to sell it to the French, to the Germans who were using that type of cotton. Additional income is gone because the weaver cannot be a full-time agriculturalist. If a weaver chooses to give up weaving, can he survive in agriculture during permanent settlement, Rayatwari settlement, or the concept of what we call as any settlement? Can he? Right? And why are we calling it advantage? These are called comparative advantages. Why are weavers were able to sell it at such a low cost? A weaver cannot survive as an agriculturist because agriculture has become problematic. And the if you stay back in weaving, full-time weaver cannot survive because land revenue commercialization, and as it is, all other processes are against them. So either way, a weaver will die, because the reason why the weaver cannot survive is a lot of weavers actually chose to be in agriculture. They gave up on weaving because this side was not a point itself. I'll give the data suggests that there was a 7 to 8% increase in the population which was engaged in agriculture. Who are they? They were the weavers only. So when the weavers said that we cannot survive against industrial revolution cloth, they went back to agriculture. They became landless tenants automatically. On the other hand, on the other side of the story, they remained as weavers. They were never going to compete with British cotton itself. See, I'll give you a very simple example of this. 10 years back, if you go to the market and ask for a chicken curry suit, chicken curry coming from UP, Lucknow, very important form of handloom. A chicken curry suit would have cost you 5,000, 8,000, 10,000. The cheapest it would have been 5,000. Today, go to Sarojini Nagar and try to buy a chicken curry suit. You'll get it from 800 rupees till maximum 1,500. 2,000 is actually too much asking for a chicken curry suit. Why? The reason is that chicken curry was initially done when 10 years back by hand. So it used to take a lot of time. So the weaver used to transfer that amount into his cloth rate, and therefore 8,000 rupees for a suit. Now machines are creating chicken curry suits. So they can create 1 lakh meter in one day. A weaver can produce only 100 meters in a day. And that is the difference. As of today, right now, most of our handloom sectors are not surviving because of this only, right? Because if you can get a t-shirt for 100 rupees, why will you go and buy khadi? Khadi is very expensive. Khadi is expensive. Pashmina shawls, 5 lakh rupees, 6 lakh rupees per piece. As you will find a shawl for maximum 1,000, 2,000 rupees. Handicrafts in India still are in the same state. Once that comparative advantage went from them, it became clear that they would never survive the industrial revolution as it is. But the point is that the industrial revolution would have destroyed the weavers, maybe. But here it is definitely. Because here the weaver had no other option but to now go into a very bad system. See, now the weaver, if he goes into agriculture, he becomes an agri-labor. He becomes a tenant. If he remains in handloom, he cannot compete. And therefore, he goes into this very dangerous system which is called the Dadni system to survive. Yesterday I taught you Rayati system. You remember it? Remember Rayati? This is the Rayati system of weavers. This is the Rayati system of weavers. Under Dadni, what happens is company gives merchants a target that we want 1000 meters and the rate is rupees 10 per meter. So this merchant, what he does is he goes to a dalal. Dalal will be said, we will give you a fixed commission of rupees 1 per meter. Get us cheap cloth. This dalal will go to a weaver and he will say, I am giving you rupees 100, produce 10 meters of cloth for me. But he will keep his cloth at rupees 2 or 3. So they will acquire it at rupees 2 or 3. The dalal will get rupees 1 from the merchant and he will sell it to the British at rupees 10. And the company will sell it in Europe for rupees 100 per meter. This is the system which is called the Dadani system. This is basically the Rayati system of weavers. They are being made to create, and the weaver has no other choice. If he remains here, he has to go into this system. If he is here, he is as it is going to die of famine. Deindustrialization is a very intricate process which is linked to both factors happening in India. But can you say that the industrial revolution was a single-handed reason why the deindustrialization happened? Can you say that because they took raw material from India, it happened? This is where we started, right? You said raw material is not there in India. You said industrial revolution destroyed it. But is it industrial revolution? Is it the industrial revolution and raw material? No. So in the introduction, if the question comes, you have to say that the comparative advantage with the Indian weavers for centuries had was that they had additional income from the agriculture. Their grain wages were very high because grain prices were very low. And generally, they could sell it at a very simple, very cheap cost because the input cost was very low. However, with coming of the British, things changed. And therefore, there were directly internal factors, and if you add to it, this is Dadni. Local merchants, Dadni merchants giving to Dalal to procure very simple, very cheap cloth. If you add to it the fact that weavers were reduced to the status of slaves in a way, there was a very high duty which was there on Indian cloth in the UK. There was only free trade ideas towards India. India was fully opened. And the industrial revolution was flooding the Indian market. There was no way they were ever going to survive because there's a discriminatory tariff policy. There's no modernization. There's no capital goods in India. Everything has to be brought from the British. Dadni is the way the weavers, whoever chose not to go into the agricultural sector, survived, which is that they basically are looking for advances which they get from the British. But the point is that they are not selling at the cost at which it's remunerative. It is not remunerative. The peasants become slaves to zamindars and the weavers become slaves to the dalals. The weaver is selling it at a very cheap rate and the British is selling it at a very heavy rate because the weavers are surviving for income. So how many meters will a weaver have to produce for 100 rupees? You tell me. For 10 meters as target, 100 rupees, how many meters does he need to produce? 10? No, for rupees 2 or 3. For rupees 2, he would have to produce 50 meters. You have to produce 50 meters. So for 100 rupees, he was producing 50 meters. And the British are selling it for 1 meter 100 rupees. So the British are selling 5,000 rupees worth of cloth and they are procuring it at 100 rupees. Imagine. Weavers can sell it in open market. Where is the open market? Where is the open market? This is your 2023 Keynesian concept speaking. Where is the open market? Where does he go for the open market? Every market is controlled by the British. You'll be beaten up, you'll be killed. 1:100 profit rate. Are you getting what is deindustrialization now? Are you understanding what is Dadni? Can I now move to drain? I'll give you a breather here, but can I move to drain? Now is the relationship between land revenue, commercialization and drain of wealth, land revenue, commercialization and deindustrialization clear? Dadni system is under which the British used to give merchants advances for procuring a set number of cloth. The merchants used to give it to dalals, and the dalals used to go to weavers who were struggling because of the industrial revolution. They were given certain advances at which they used to produce at a fixed cost, and the British used to acquire it at a very cheap rate. That's what is Dadani. We even can sell it at Indian markets. Again, where is that Indian market? कहाँ जाओगे? You tell me. Why are you talking like it's 2023 that they will take up WhatsApp and they will contact? कोई lending cart है. This is lending cart for you. There is Flipkart, there's Amazon that they will go and sell it. This is 1765 we are talking about. If they go to Calcutta, what about China market? Okay. So you think a weaver who has no income, he will procure a ship. He will take 100 meters of cloth, go till Macau, then meet the Chinese, sell it to the Chinese, and then bring it back. And you tell me one thing, why would China buy cotton? China is already a cotton and silk producing nation. So the only option the weaver has is to take a ship and go to London and sell it there. Listen to yourself before you're telling me these things. You can't do it right now. I give you 100 of these pens, sell it. Sell these pens to me. I'll give you 100 of these pens without Flipkart and Amazon. Try to sell it in a 1 month. Struggle. Markets are controlled by the British. Trade is controlled by the British. Land revenue is controlled by the British. Everything is controlled by the British. But we sold opium to China with the help of the Portuguese. Are these weavers from Rajwada family of Sindhias? These are Sindhias we are talking about. These are Bhosles, Sindhias and Gaikawads we are talking about. Are they princely states? Sindhias was a princely state. You are talking in absurd language right now and you are not understanding the logistics of what you're saying. No, sir, but there was an opportunity. Sure. So I would give you a time machine, go back and tell it to the weaver that yaar galti ho gayi, you should have not deindustrialized, go and sell it to the Chinese via the Portuguese. Opportunity, not talking like an Shark Tank, that there was an opportunity, you did not take it. Indian traders should reach other markets like America, Africa, other Europeans. So from Bombay, the British will first make you wear a garland and say, "Ja, ji le apni zindagi, go to America and sell this cloth in America." And listen to yourself. This is a colonial market, colonial structure, colonially dominated, British dominated trade. The three ports of India, which are the most important, Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras, are all British ports. So the British ports will say, "Hi, you come. What are you doing? I'm taking 1,000 meters of cloth, going to sell it to the American trade. I want to bypass you. You are a parasite on India. I want to bypass you. He will say, "Ha, ja, beta, ja." This is what they're going to say. Are you getting the problem in what you're trying to say here? Because your innocent questions have very dangerous implications. Because you will start to talk about these things in different places. Every nation is colonized, hence both high exporter. That is not even the point. America is a free country at this point of time. But you think, can you afford right now, as of right now, to go to America and come back right now? Everyone who is there in class, everybody has it. That purchasing power for an ticket to America and coming back. Some of you may say yes, no. I'll say no. So you don't have the money to go to America right now and get the visa. And you think a weaver and the weavers can go to America with a ship. It would take 6 months to reach there. Can I break and then come back and discuss drain? Are you understanding the absurd propositions you're making? Because what is speaking from you is the RBI governor who's sitting inside. ये कर देना चाहिए था, वो कर देना चाहिए था. It's not modern economics. Understand this point. It's a colonial market, colonial structure, colonial India. Okay. So deindustrialization is clear, commercialization is clear, land revenue is clear. Now, what we come back and discuss is drain of wealth. So we come back at 11:15 and then we go for, no, I can't, I have to give you a break here because drain and famine is big and you need to cool down because you are making suggestions which indicate to me that you're thinking at a different level altogether. Even all the weavers were not in mass production. That is the point. Show the grain wage slide. This is grain wage slide. Grain wage. Why British procure looms when they had cloth made by the machines? Looms, they now wanted raw cotton to sell it to the French. They're taking their own cotton from America. Okay. See you at 11:15. Okay, welcome back. Okay. Uh, Now we discuss drain of wealth, and we will revisit this concept twice or once more. This is drain of wealth, economic part, and we'll revisit drain of wealth also in nationalism. When we will be discussing about Dadabhai Naoroji economic nationalism, we will again discuss where does this drain of wealth theory come from. But as of right now, we have to discuss just the economic part of it. A question which I asked you again in the beginning, that how was India drained of its resources? And there were certain amount of suggestions and concepts which came from you. And we have to now basically see what were the channels. So what we have to understand is the called the channels of drain. Channels of drain of wealth. Channels of drain of wealth. Now, how did drain of wealth happen? That is the question. That is the question. And the first channel, first channel would be commodities. Would be commodities. Commodities. Now, what do I mean by commodities? The commodities acquired in India using Indian revenue and exported and sold by British exporters and sellers. Now tell me one thing. If a Britisher, if a Britisher acquires pepper in India, he takes it to America and sells it to the Americans. Does the Indian economy gain anything? No, because the money is going to go to the British exporter. So how we have a difference between gross domestic product and gross national product, GDP, GNP? Everything which a Britisher is acquiring in India and selling in the market across the world, the exporter is Britisher, the seller is Britisher, the ship being used is also British, and the commodities have also been taken at a very cheap price at a loss. And commodities is something which people don't tend to talk about. How big as a drain it actually was. Major source of drain in that regard. Because we tend to say that the British came, took the money, and went back. No, they rather converted all the money into commodities and then exponentially took a profit on it and then drained India. So every penny earned by a Britisher across the world was a British exporter or British lose or what we call as looting Indian profits. So commodities did play a very big important role in draining all of the Indian economy. Then comes the second channel. Anybody has any issue in the first channel? Second channel. No. Now you have bribes, gifts, and illegal transfers taken by the British officers. This is a more direct way. This is a more direct way in which bribes, gifts, illegal transfer, everything was based on a certain transfer of commodities. Transfer of commodities. So they could either take the bribe and take it to London, but all the private trading and all the gifts which were given to these people, that is also a drain. 20 lakh, 30 lakh, 50 lakh rupees taken by Mir Jafar, Mir Qasim, all of that is a drain. But mostly those were also converted into commodities and then taken out of India. Then comes the third channel, which is something which people don't tend to talk about, but is equally important, which is dividend, a return on investment, the interests on assets, or basically any profit or return gained by British investor. So I will show you very soon when I will be teaching you railways that there was a guaranteed 5% return which the British used to give. Guaranteed 5% which the British used to give to anybody who invests in India. So because it is, yes, a private joint stock company, every dividend which was, every penny which a British citizen got out of stock holding of the East India Company, that rupee, that pound came from where? It came from where? It came from the Indian revenue, Indian subcontinent. Every dividend, every return on investment, every asset, everything was Indian revenue only. So first three channels of drain, anybody has any issue in these? It should not generally be a problem, but tell me. First, second, third. Subsidiary alliance is not draining, it's rather gaining the British in India. You can say that the maintenance is, yes, that is, I'll tell you that the British did not gain any income from this. When it comes to subsidiary lines, no income came. It was a drain indirectly that we were maintaining. I have already told you that we were paying for our own colonization. It was a service. There's no income directly gained. Here you can add war indemnity also. War indemnity. Third point result of the first point. No, that is not true. That is not true. Third point existed irrespective of the first. Third point, which is dividend return on investment, can be there without of commodity transfer also. For example, how Clive was saying that we will give dividend to our shareholders. That was independent of the commodities. Now comes the biggest growth, what we call as channel of drain, which is called home charges. This accounted for 40% of all drain which happened from India. Home charges is nothing but salaries, pension, compensation, administrative cost and cost of, or not even, and salaries of English employees in London linked to Indian administration. This was considered one of the biggest channels of drain. Salaries of all governor generals, all ICS officers, everything. Basically, this is the cost of ruling. The day-to-day cost of ruling was the biggest drain which ever happened. We were paying for our own colonization, but home charges, pensions, which Cornwallis, which Hastings, which later Wellesley, which all of these officers got, all British officers in India, the all ICS officers, all British establishment. If he's a British citizen, if he's a European citizen, he is draining our economy of that money. Imagine that they ruled for 125 years. To be very precise, 200 years. Properly 125, but 200 years properly. 1757, 1947. Between 1757 and 1947, how much money would have gone in salaries, pensions, compensation if you die, administrative cost, people who are involved in London who are linked to the Indian ministry? Imagine. And if you add the fifth channel, you will then realize the level of drain which was so intricate. The fifth channel is called store purchases. It is believed that out of this 40%, 18% of home charges was actually store purchases. Store purchases mean every stationary equipment 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 training gear was bought in London and not in India. Now imagine every piece of paper, every piece of pencil, rubber, pen, typewriter, ink, all was bought in pounds in London. Everything was imported. Because if they buy it from an Indian manufacturer, who gains? If they buy it from an Indian manufacturer, who gains? Indians. This is exactly the opposite of Make in India. It's basically buy in Britain. If you have been to Bombay, if you ever go to Bombay, if you go to the old Colaba area, old parts of Calcutta, old parts of Bombay, old parts of Madras, you will find these very big buildings made out of concrete and steel and iron. If you've ever been to Elphinstone College or the areas which are old Colaba, Imperial Kolkata sector, they used a lot of steel and iron to create these buildings. Every nut, bolt, iron rod was brought from the British, brought by the British from London itself. Nothing was produced in India. No heavy industries, nothing. The trains were assembled in London, brought in the British ships and brought into India. Tracks, the timber, the even the stones which go on tracks, everything was British. Everything was British. They made sure that nothing was bought in India because that was India's economy would get a boost. Rather, they made their stationery sector, the equipment sector, trains also, engines, coaches, everything were laden onto ships and brought to India. The engine, the wagons, coaches, everything. This is the level of drain which India faced at this point of time. This is the level of drain. So if I see it, profits from offensive land revenues, private trading and bribes, dividend, debt and guaranteed interest, charges on day-to-day basis, which included pay, pension, training costs of civil and military personnel, everything, civil and military personnel, pay of Secretary of State and his establishment in London. As of 1922, this accounted for 40% of total revenue taken. Further, the government of India, which is the British government of India, purchased stores of military, civil, and marine departments in English markets. And on an average, 10 to 12% of the home charges, and at the highest, 18%, was part of store purchases itself. And therefore, when we talk about drain itself, there was a very nuanced and intricate way in which everything was actually indirectly transferred, except for the second one. 1, 3, 4, 5. Aren't they all indirect? But bringing every commodity from London would much be cost for the company. But they are taking Indian revenue. So, do you really think the British care that it is expensive to buy it in London? If I give you 100 rupees and go and buy, for example, a chocolate, you will get a very expensive chocolate. If you earn that same 100 rupees, you will not buy anything more than a munch. So very simply, when it is someone else's money, you waste it. This is wastage of money. Obviously, bribes from Bengal refer to war compensation after Kalasi. Yes, yes, yes. Except for the second one, which also was converted into the first. All the channels are very intricately related to trade. So, can we now establish and say, when you started with me, I told you that laymen say, basic standard people say that India was drained, India was looted. But is this direct looting? Or was it direct looting? Or does that person even account for what was taken indirectly? And the answer to that question is no. The level of drain was so intricate, so linked to the Indian economy, that there was no way they were ever able to figure it out. They were ever able to figure it out. And that is why it will take us 100 years to realize. Because Dadabhai Naroji's book got published in India in 1906. Since 1765 to 1906, we were not able to figure out how the British were looting us. So the level of drain was so intricate that it took us 100 years to realize how we were getting looted. This is drain of wealth for you, and this is how all of these three things are linked to each other, which is land revenue, commercialization, deindustrialization, and drain. The British made profit with zero investment. No, that is not true. British made investment, but every investment was going to give them a return. The point which I'm trying to argue here to you is, I have literally kept in front of you the kacha chitta of the British rule. The way all of this is related to each other. I have for you decoded for the past 2 days how British between 1765 and 1947 looted us. And the conclusion is that no act of the British was innocent and everything was related to each other. People tend to talk about these things separately. Land revenue was there, commercialization was positive, deindustrialization happened, drain happened. But they are intricately related to each other and basically are a cascading effect. It's a domino effect. Land revenue produces commercialization, commercialization produces deindustrialization, and all three produce drain. Are we clear about this? Because then I discuss famines and then we do previous year questions. Perfect. Now, just to add to that drain thing, investment on plantations, mines, cotton, jute mills, engineering, no growth of Indian enterprises, least interest in industrial growth, exploitation of resources, all come together to be what we call as drain. Now we come to famines. Now, if somebody ever asks you, can we talk about famines? This is the last part of economic history. Yes, sir. Okay. If somebody ever asks you that what is the thing which the British gave us, if they ever gave us anything, what is the British innovation in India? What is the impact of British in India? The answer is famines. This was never the reality in India. Famine is the process through which people die. People die of hunger. There can be natural famines. There can be man-made famines. But every famine which happened under the British was a man-made famine. They had money to invest, patience to earn profit on investments, so they executed well. That's why they ruled us. That is true, Silambarsi. That's a very, very good way of understanding that. Now, if you ask a Britisher why famines happened in India, they will give you a certain perspective and we will give them a certain perspective. According to the Britishers, the reason why famines happened in India was that India was poor. India was poor, so famine happened. You Indians are very poor. You are poverty stricken, and that poverty was given. Therefore, famines is happening. On the other hand, we argue that poverty was created by you only. The British would say that famine, poverty creates famines. We said famines created poverty. Your land revenue settlements created poverty. Your commercialization created poverty. Understand this point that they are saying that poverty is a given. We say that poverty is not a given thing. It is related to famines and the whole economic policy. So the British argue that we are the reason why we are the reason why we are poor, and we argue that you are the reason why we are poor. Why we are poor. This is a very important differentiation you need to understand. We are the reason why we are poor, and you are the reason why we are poor are two very different things. Are two very different things. And this is the whole debate. It's an acute shortage of food, can be natural and man-made. But does poverty cause famine or famine cause poverty? That is the question. British would say famines caused by poverty or famines cause poverty. We say poverty cause famine. Our argument is that this poverty has been created by you, which causes famines. It's not the other way around. And we argue that it is colonial economic policy which did it. Our argument is very straightforward. Famines are a logical and inevitable consequence of the process of colonial exploitation. Colonial exploitation. The overuse in natural resources. No, it's not about overuse. If you will create a situation in which everybody is landless, everybody does not have anything to eat, they have no income, you ask for too much, everybody is moving away from grains. Commercialization, which is a forced commercialization, is a single-handed reason why grains were in shortage. Because you have made our peasants move to cash crops. So famines are not a natural thing which we lived through ancient India, we lived through Mughal India, we lived through medieval India, we lived through Delhi Sultanate, we lived through all this period. From 2 million BCE till 1757, nothing really happened. Famines were very rare. Very rare. Once in a century also it would have happened. But now, after 1757, there's an accelerated concept in which famines happened. I will discuss right now after this mains questions with you and prelims questions with you. I will show you a question. This is the exact question which UPSC is asked. And ironically, if you don't have an intricate understanding of economic history, you can't answer that question only. You need to understand this point that famines are a British created innovation in India. Never happened. You tell me that if there is or if there was ever food shortage in India. Food shortage is a very British thing. And you tell me, in the context of villages in India today, if somebody knows that there is a person who does not have food to eat, will the villagers ever let that person die because of hunger? Because of no purchasing power? We are not like that. As a civilization, we are generous. We will never let others die because they have no food. In India, you may not get a lot of wealth, but food was something which everybody would ask you. So understand this point that famines are not a joke. And when we talk about the famines which happened, you don't have to learn this data, but just look at the scale. 12 famines and 4 severe calamities happened between 1757 to 1857. 100 years, 12 famines, 4 severe scarcities. And the British in this period under East India Company did not even bother to have any form of famine code or famine policy. 1769-70, we have the first famine. Which is in Bengal because of Clive. 1/3 of the province dies. So if you take it as 1 lakh population, 30,000 died. 1 crore was the estimated population. 30 lakh people died. 8492, Northern India, Madras. So basically, it is now spreading across India. 1803, it goes to northwestern province and Awadh. By 1833 and 37, in the Guntur famine, 2 lakh died out of 5 lakh. 40% death rate. In between this period itself, it is believed that 2 to 3 crore people died. All of this created because the British were so greedy to drain our agriculture sector and so greedy to take our commodities or to take the commodities. It is a land revenue settlement, but commercialization and deindustrialization which produces this. In the First World War, 3 crore people died. Without fighting a war, these people died automatically. But sir, in 1803, Northwest was under Sikh rule. So you are justifying that नहीं हमारी भी गलती है. No, even if it is under the Sikh rule, if it's okay under the Sikh rule, if today the Pakistanis poison the water of Indus River, can you do something about that? If there's a severe shortage in that territory, what will Ranjit Singh do? You tell me. What will Ranjit Singh do? The problem is, you don't need to remember this timeline. But the problem is that none of these famines ask help from whom? From whom? Tell me. Where does Ranjit Singh go? Crosses the Satluj. Goes to Afghanistan. British. Okay, British. But British are the one who've created this issue. And why would the British help Ranjit Singh? Again, these are innocent ways of arguing. Treaty of Perpetual Friendship is there. So Ranjit Singh will say that people are dying in my sector. If you understand one thing, Northwestern province, whole of Northwestern sector is under Punjab. Firstly, the question itself is wrong because only the Punjab sector is with the British, is with the Ranjit Singh. Everything else from Delhi till Punjab, whole of Rajasthan, that is all Northwestern, right? So, firstly, these type of questions tend to argue, and the implied connotation is that you're saying you're trying to justify something. I know you are not trying to, but understand what you say, what is the implication of that. You're saying, sir, 1803 Ranjit Singh was there, so Ranjit Singh's fault. So if Ranjit Singh's fault is there, then what are you trying to say? Now, this one we can count off. I can remove it from the list because I think this is because of Ranjit Singh. This is the mentality which led us to go into colonialism. If Ranjit Singh is under distress, Indian people are under distress. Why less famines in South India? Don't worry, Shreyas. See the next list. This is only North India. Because East India Company power was more concentrated in the North Indian sector. But sir, it's logical. Sure. So then use your logic to understand. If it's logical to say that it's under Ranjit Singh, then it's logical to also know that whole of Northwestern sector is not under Ranjit Singh. Then it is also logical to say that if Ranjit Singh is facing shortage, the whole sector would be facing shortage. And Ranjit Singh is the one who introduced Mahalwari system. You tell me. Ranjit is the one who introduced permanent settlement. If you're using logic, use the right way, na? Why are you stopping at a point? The famine will happen irrespective of Ranjit Singh or not. It doesn't matter who is there. The British will create an issue in Bengal and that will have a cascading effect on Awadh. Awadh was also not under them. In 1803, Awadh was not under them. It was under Wajid Ali Shah. So it is not, Awadh is also not under them. But Awadh is linked to Bengal presidency or Bengal. So these famines are all British created because they will, if today whole of UP Bihar gets affected by a crop eating bacteria, will a famine not happen in Tamil Nadu and Kerala? Or in Punjab or Haryana if there's a bacteria that spreads? It will happen. If the food producing belt gets impacted, then automatically everybody will do it. So understand this point. Now, this is the report card of the East India Company. According to the East India Company, according to the British Crown, it was the East India Company which was at fault. However, when the Crown rule comes, there's no better. 10 famines happened with large scarcities again across India. So it's not that the British Crown came and did anything. They did the drama of creating certain lists and certain understanding, but actually they did nothing. They did nothing at all. They had 3 commissions established, which I will show you, but the level report card is equally bad. 1860-61 Delhi Agra. For the first time, they looked into this concept and had tried to have a analysis of it. Based on that, you have the Braid-Smith report. But as soon as the Braid-Smith report came, 1866, Orissa, Madras, Bihar, Northern Bengal, 13 lakh people alone died in Orissa. Then if that was not enough, 1868, Northern and Central India. 1876, it was Madras, Bombay, UP and Punjab. Whole villages were depopulated. 5 million people died in 1 year. Between 1850 to 1900, 2.8 crore people died in different types of famines. And the worst famine of all was actually created by no one else but the British just before independence, 1942-43. This was a properly artificially created famine because it was linked to the Second World War. Churchill, the bastard of London, during the Second World War, directed all food out of India, Burma and whole of Southeast Asia towards the war effort. There was no food grain in India not because there was shortage, because everything was exported to London and to the European sector. And when people asked him, when the American press asked him that there's a very severe famine in India and why aren't you doing anything? So he said that if there is a famine in India and people are dying of hunger, then why hasn't Gandhi died? You don't have to remember the dates of these famines. You have to understand the scale of these famines. 42-43, obviously you should know. This is a literal epidemic, malnutrition, starvation, man-made situation. Cause all food gone to the army. Famine relief was mismanaged. Relief measures were not taken, which I will talk to you about. Southeast Asia, Burma import of rice was stopped, and Bengal agriculture had already collapsed in 1938. If this does not make you cognizant of the brutality of British rule in India, if this does not make you angry, then I don't know what will. Estimated 8 to 10 crore people died just because they did not have 1 ounce of rice to eat. Rice was stopped because this Burma and Southeast Asia rice was going towards London. Looting is one thing, economic distress is one thing. But if it has an impact such as a famine, it is really dangerous and unfortunate. And it's not that they did not do a drama. They did do a drama. The first such commission which they established is called the Strachey Commission. Don't have to learn the recommendation. Recommendations are not important. Only chronological order comes, or what is this commission related to. Strachey was basically established by Lytton, and it said that because there is privatization and because employment is an issue, we should give gracious relief to these important poors of India. And because they are so poor, I think they should be given certain type of relief. That was his attitude towards it. But other than that, Strachey said not anything, no major thing. He said that food supply was the issue. Let us try to make food supply go from here to there. Suggested suspension and remission of land revenue if there was a famine-like situation. And famine relief could be borne by the provincial governments. Excessive drought, we can take the cattle out and take it to grassy lands. And very simply, a famine fund will be established. But Strachey's recommendation will be accepted, but nothing will be really done because in 1883, another commission will be established and it will then try to formulate a code under which how will everybody react. But just after it, there was another famine and nothing really happened. The second such commission which was established is called the Lyell. So you have Strachey and Lyell. SL. Remember SL. SLM is actually the whole acronym. You have Strachey and then Lyell. Strachey and then Lyell. Strachey Lyell. Don't have to remember the recommendations because that is of immateriality. Then 1899, 1900, a famine will affect 2.8 crore people and the authorities will refuse to even give the relief at the time they needed it. And then it will come McDonald Commission. So you have Strachey, Lyell, McDonald. What does this say? That there should be a moral strategy, early distribution of relief, famine commissioner should be established. We should enlist non-official assistance also. Transportation facilities should be there. Most recommendations were taken, but none of this actually helped against famines generally. And with this, we finish our economic history and we go to previous year questions. Are we clear about famines? Strachey, Lyell, McDonald. You can remember that? Because I want to first discuss with you mains questions. And then we can go to prelims questions. Can we do that? Yes, sir. Clear, sir. Okay. So what I'm going to do is that because I am only the here, I'll copy and paste the question into the chat section so that you can see it. Works for you? So that you can see it, it will be shown in your chat section. Make sense? So let's look at GS paper. Mains. Okay. I'll copy paste and it will come in front of you. Okay. In 20, we're doing the first three, the latest three. 2021, Bhakti, Social Justice Reform Movement, Administrative Issues, Irrigation, Western Ghats. This year, no question came from this area, I think. ROS, Democratic, Multilateral, Socio-Economic Nationality. No. We'll go to 2022. Because 2022, there was a question which was related to famines. Ah, yes. Very good question. Two questions back to back. Two questions back to back. One second. I am copying it. I need the mouse. Yes. First question is coming in front of you. 1 second. This is the first question. This is 2022. And this is the second question. Both 10 markers, but very interesting questions that was. Two questions back to back related to this area. And let me add 2023 also. 2023, I think 2023 we did not have anything specific out of this area. No, nothing at all. Okay, so two questions are in front of you. The first one says, I hope you can see it, right? You can see it. The two questions I've posted in front of you. Yes, okay. I am not Kumkum. Check your chat. It's in your chat. I've made it public. I can see it. You can also see it. Why did the armies of the British East India Company, mostly comprising of Indian soldiers, which is actually two, win consistently against the more numerous and better equipped armies of the Indian rulers? Give reasons. Now, see, the point is that this question has been made by a person who really doesn't understand colonial history. मैं उसका भावना समझ रहा हूं. I'm understanding why is he asking this question. But the question is not very well framed, because better equipped is not the right explanation. The British were always better equipped, and numerous is sure not better equipped. And yes, the British used to employ Indian soldiers also. Now, the way you answer this type of question is, what is he asking about then? What is he basically asking about? What is the examiner asking about at this point of time? What is this question related to? That is not, they don't use a better converter. No, it is not related to that. It is not asking you about, see, it's not asking you about direct, it's asking you about how is that the British would have a smaller army and they still won against the British Indian rulers. What is the reason? Is it actually superiority of military technology? Remember all of the different wars, and you tell me, was it that the British came, took a lot of equipment and just entered into the area? The question is asking you about internal issues. The reasons is the tactics. In this type of question, in the introduction, body, and conclusion, in the introduction, you talk about the fact that, yes, you restate the fact that with much bigger armies, they lost, and British military intervention was mostly very low. Then what is the reason why they won is going to go into the body. And here the first reason is disunity. First amongst all the states. Then it would be conspiracies. Plassy. Then it would be inroads because of internal politics. Then it would be myopic vision. Then it would be subsidiary alliance. Have I not been telling you something? That was it really the British who just landed with 1 lakh army and took everything? We were disunited. We were fighting amongst ourselves. The fact that Plassey was a conspiracy. Jagat Seth gave them internal access. From Raghunath Rao to Bajirao II, the British never got any form of inroad when the Marathas were very strong. It's only when Raghunath Rao got involved, it is only when Bajirao II got involved. Anwaruddin, the concept of Muzaffar Jang, Chand Sahib, Nasir Jang, and Anwaruddin fighting is all subsidiary alliance. This question is asking you about indirect ways in which the British always had internal access. It is their patience. It is their timing. That is what won them wars, right? So are you not capable of understanding it like this? It is not about better equipment, because the examiner for you has already established that the better equipment is with the Indians and the numbers is also with the Indians. That is why he's actually framed this question that way. He's saying that against numerous and better equipped army, then how can be the technology be a factor? The examiner has already, you can talk about doctrine of lapse, sure, why not? See, this question is very easy if you understand colonialism, which I'm trying to make you understand. The British never needed power, full force of power, or even military power to get into any place. It was just inroad. Lal Singh, Teja Singh, everything. So are we clear what you have to write? Conclude by saying that yes, all of these factors together basically gave British India on a platter. That's it. Are you getting the thought process which is needed for this examination or for this question? Are you getting it? Modern equipment, Polu, according to the examiner, is with the Indians. Succession disputes, other things can be written, not this. Maratha versus Hyder Ali politics, perfect. This is called disunity. You need to understand this point clearly. It's not difficult to understand. Indian dealers are not greedy, they are myopic. Can we move to the second question? Are you getting the point of the first question? You give examples for everything. For each of these points, you have to give examples. Lack of nationalist feeling, you can't use the word nationalism at this point of time. Maratha internal politics, Carnatic internal politics, the internal politics of Bengal, the internal politics of Sikhs, everything internal politics. Farmers posing and soldiers versus professional army. Again, Nikhil, what you are saying, understand one point. Why are you not understanding? A lot of you are giving multiple suggestions, but your suggestions are not adding to the question, are contradicting the question. Read the question again. I'm posting the question again. 1 second. You read the question again and you tell me how your points are actually going to answer this question. You read the question again. You read the question again. It's gone up, right? You read the question again. It says, why did the British East India Company win consistently against more numerous and better equipped armies of the Indian rulers? So if you will say that the Indian rulers had better armies or worse armies, then aren't you contradicting the examiner? But he said that they have better. I have no other option but to accept it. This is the problem with UPSC. You are right in saying it, but what point you are making is basically destroying the question itself. So, Nikhil, a lot of you are making points, but those points are contradictory to the question itself. The examiner पूछ नहीं रहा है. He is asking you to tell, give reasons. It's not saying analyze. Please understand this point. A lot of you write opposite what the question is saying. Examiner is saying the Indian rulers have better armies, better equipped armies also. Then can I write about the technology point? You tell me. That is the point. The Indians have worse armies, but the examiner in his own world sees the Indian armies to be better. Flow chart you cannot make. Remember, in the examination, don't make flow charts and leave it to the examiner that you figure it out. Write properly, point by point. Can I move to the next question? It also says British having Indian soldiers. It also indicates Indian fighting against Indians. Yeah, that is true. In a way, Samhita, the examiner has already given in the question itself, there's the answer. The answer to this question is already there the answer to this question is already in the question. Indian soldiers used to fight. It's showing Indian versus Indian. So isn't he indicating towards disunity? So the examiner has been kind enough to give you the answer within the question. If today the examiner says, under quotes, the sun rises from the North Pole, give reasons. So you have to give reasons. Don't sit there criticizing the UPSC or the examiner that you are dumb. No, it comes up from the east, it comes up from the west, and this and that. Getting my point? If the examiner says something, you have to substantiate on that only. You may agree or disagree with that person. That's a separate issue altogether. So, in differentiate question can be done. Differentiate, you can make box. Now, the second question, which is the more interesting one. Now, you tell me, after the discussion we had, are you capable of writing this question? You tell me. Why was there a sudden spurt in famines in colonial India since the mid 18th century? Give reasons. This is literally British economic policy question. Do you get it now? Why am I see? And it's not that I did not used to teach like this before this question came. Since 1750, yes. Since 1750. Are these questions factual? Are they asking you about the wars? Are they asking you about the stories? Are they asking you about who is Muzaffar Jang? Are they asking you about the nitty-gritty of the questions? No. Mains questions are always conceptual. They are always conceptual. They are trying to make you answer in a certain way. In a certain way. Get it? Can we now move to the prelims questions? Mains questions. If I did mains first because I believe that mains is something which you fear. In the later classes, I'll do more of mains questions, but I wanted to introduce two to you. Can we write in our own words? Yes, you have to write in your own words only. It's about how you frame it. Word limit is both are 10 markers, which means 150 words. You will struggle to write it within 150 words. That is the point I'm trying to make. It's the other way around, rather. What is the solution to make them look easy? Study, understand, listen to me, what I'm telling you. I'm trying to make you understand certain things. Practice. The more you practice, the more you will decode the questions. Can you share few more mains questions? You tell me the year. I would have to find it. I'm googling it and putting it in front of you. I in my understanding, 2023 does not have a question from whatever we've covered till this point, and it's like answers for some of the doubts. Yeah, true. That is the point, sir. I'm in the beginning stage of preparation. So Tanu, you have to give right answers any stage of preparation. Start writing because that is the make and break in this examination. Now, 2023, there was no question from this area. There were two rather different type of questions. 2022, I've already discussed with you. 2021, I can scan for you if you want. 2021, I don't think there was any question related to this area because one was Bhakti, the other one was Young Bengal, which is social justice reform movement, and the other one was integration of princely states. That's a post-independence question. Other than that, there was, if you want to, you just send me. Moderate politics was there. Non-cooperation and civil disobedience, again, all national movement. You want, I can check 2019 also. But if you remember the year, you tell me. I have it in a PPT, but not right now. It's in a different further PPTs. Indo-Bactrians, 1857 culmination, Indian Renaissance. 2019 also, we don't have a question from this area. Yeah, nothing like that. Gandhian phase, no. 2018 also, I'll check for you. Wait. So last 5 years we've checked. Same question in different word form, 2014. Samita, just send the question. I'll make it public. Safeguarding the Indian heritage, Chinese account, thoughts of Mahatma Gandhi. Again, nothing like that. Caste system, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. No. So till 2018, till this point, only 2 questions have come from this area. And gold till 2017, examine how decline of artisan industry crippled the rural economy. Which year is this? 1 second. I'm making the question. 1 second. Thank you. Thank you. One question has come from clarify how behest. Yes, this is a good question. Make public. One question which has come from Polukunda and examine how traditional industries 2017 only. Okay, 2017 has 2 questions. Make public. Critically, the various facets of okay. 3 questions we have. Now we have 3 questions, right? Let's understand these questions. Thank you for this. I would have my 2017 here. I was checking, and we have 2017 questions. Okay. The first is you can see Polukonda, Gulam, and Samita's questions. Yes, in front of your screen. Okay. So now the Polukunda question is very interesting. How 18th century India was beset with a specter of fragmented polity. This question is English literature. 18th, it is asking 18th century beset. Beset means it is dotted by fragmented polity. What is this question talking about? What is this question talking about? This question is on regional kingdoms. This question is about regional kingdoms. Not a very difficult question because it's basically asking you discuss how was India divided during the 18th century. So are you capable of talking about Bengal, Awadh, Mysore, the Marathas, the Sikhs, and even Rohilkhand? Are you? Carnatic, Jats, Rajputs. I've taught you all of this. Now, again, the problem in this type of question is that you have to control. You have to control because the question is saying examine how, 1 second, clarify how mid 18th century was a beset with spectre of fragmented polity. So in this, you don't have to do anything. You have to just say that 18th century political structure was this, which is that there were Bengal, Awadh, Mysore, Maratha, Sikh, Rohilkhand. One line on each one of them and your answer is done. Are you getting the question? This is the reason why we need to do regional kingdoms. So that the picture which I was trying to create was what? Advent, Mughal decline, regional kingdoms. So they've asked regional kingdom. The introduction is going to be that previously, before the 18th century, the Mughal Empire was the most powerful empire which existed, which united everybody. However, after the Mughal Empire declined, the whole, now use the same language which the question is saying. The 18th century was beset with fragmented polity. Let us understand how. First point. Awadh, Bengal emerged under Murshid Quli Khan, and by the time we come to 1757, there was Sirajuddaula. Awadh under Sadat Ali Khan, Sadat Khan became independent. Murshid Quli Khan made it. Sadat Khan made it. Sadullah Khan made Carnatic. Then you talk about Hyder Ali taking power away from Nanjaraj. One line, and you're done. Your story is done. Basically, successor states and rebel states you have to write. Don't do the mistake of telling them whole Maratha politics, but just say that the Marathas went from Chhatrapati rule to Peshwa rule under Balaji Vishwanath. It's a 10 marker, so you have to write in your controlled way. Now you tell me, do you have a dearth of information or you have too much information? Is it enough? You're answering the question. Sindhya, you're answering the question directly by telling the examiner that yes, this is the way the whole 18th century used to look like. You literally have too much to write here because you have to summarize the whole regional kingdom section. Are you getting my point? This question has been worded in a difficult way, but it is not categorically difficult. Are we clear with regards to that? You can easily do it. Beset means it is spotted by, it is seen by, it is known by, that ways. And Akash, some of you, if you struggle in words, the question is always given in Hindi also. Read it in Hindi. I've done it in the past in certain examinations. You can always get questions which have very difficult words. You can just read the Hindi translation and you will get to know what it means. Can we do the next question? Gulam's question. See, am I making sense to you? I want to have a genuine discussion with you about mains questions. Because I'm trying, if you align your vision with mine, then my teaching becomes more effective and learning becomes more effective. All of these questions are indicative of one thing, that the examiner wants you to understand and actually ratify. Let's take Gulam's question, 2017. Examine how the decline of traditional artisanal industry in Indian colonial India crippled the rural economy. Now, this is basically talking about the concept of deindustrialization. But if you can tell them deindustrialization, how did deindustrialization is related to land revenue and it is related to commercialization? What the question is? It says examine how traditional industries crippled rural economy. It basically is what we discussed. Is that because the weavers died, grain waste started to go up. The point is, in 2017, maybe this answer would have been different because Prasannan Patsati's book comes in 2018. I am giving you the most. Sudresh, it should be in your chat. Everybody can see the questions. It is in your chat. When you're writing this, you should have 3 messages from me and 2 messages or 3 messages from Polu and Gulam and Shamishta or Samita rather. So this question is basically asking you, how does deindustrialization impact India? In the process of explaining deindustrialization, you will automatically tell them how rural India is going to be destroyed. Self-sufficiency is gone, weavers are gone, agriculture destroyed, and nothing, if not, add famines also. Isn't famines the answer of this question? It crippled the rural economy through famines. Now, if you look at Samita's question, it is exactly the same as the Gulam question. Examine critically the various facets of economic policies of the British in India from mid-18th century till independence. This is a question which is asking you, what is land revenue settlements? Gokul, I've already done this question. Sir, clarify how mid-18th century was beset. I don't know where were you sleeping, but we've already done that. The point is, critically examine the various facets of economic policy. What is that question? What is that question? What is it talking about? It's exactly talking about land revenue settlement, commercialization, deindustrialization, drain. So basically from land revenue to drain, you have to explain what happened. It's a summary of economic policy. Yes. So these questions are in a way just asking the same way in a different sense. You can talk about self-sufficiency also. Follow the question 2014. The third battle of Panipat was fought in 1761. Why so many battles are shaking through Panipat? That's a medievalish question. I'll discuss it when I'll discuss first battle of Panipat with you, Babar and Ibrahim Lodi. But the reason it's its geographical location, because coming from the Khyber Pass, Panipat is in between the Shivalik and the Aravallis. So it is like a wedge through which you have to come to India. See, again, understand this point. Understand this point. The questions are not difficult. Rather, you have to control your own impulse of not writing too much. In many ways, Lord Dalhousie was the founder of modern India. Elaborate 2013. This, Polu, I have to teach you just after we do the previous year questions. That is related to railways, telegraph, postal. So I'm coming to that. I know that question 2013 one, which you have. This is the question which this exact question will be answered. This exact question will be answered. Don't worry. I have these questions with me. This question, exact question, is nothing but transportation. My own article on the railways will answer it. Along with that, you will have postal, telegraph. All are introduced by Dalhousie. Dalhousie introduced railways in India, telegraph in India, and postal services in India. So modern India. Can we go to prelims questions? If your mains question curiosity is over. See, I know these questions. Now they should not look threatening. See, Gaurav, right now don't care about how many words you're writing. 150, 250, 350, doesn't matter. Learn to write the questions first. See, the key to getting marks in the mains examination is writing questions or writing answers which are accurately answering the question. 50% of the students, close to maybe 80% sometimes, don't write answers which are answering the questions. They write whatever points that come to their mind, but they will not answer the question. Questions are asking you something very specific. Try to answer them in that same context. Get my point, everyone? Okay. Now, let's do prelims questions now. Now, come closer to the screen because fastest fingers first. We will do it through the concept of polling. So now it will come to you in the end, leaderboard. Okay. 2021. Saint Francis Xavier was one of the founding members of the Jesuit order. Saint Francis Xavier died in Goa and a church is dedicated to him there. The feast of Saint Francis Xavier is celebrated in Goa each year. I'll give you a realistic time. I'm giving you 1 minute. Read it closely. Nobody has to hurry. In the examination, you get 2 minutes. Still, I'm halving the time. Come on. One of you written World Cup final. So what should I do about it? You tell me. I know there's a final today. I am also sitting in front of you. You tell me what should we do about it. Perfect. 75% if you totally remember a very small peculiarity. And 314, 8%. Don't remember one thing. Francis Xavier died in India or in China? Where did he die? China. This should be China. He was died in China, buried there, he was taken out, then reburied in Goa. Does he come from the Jesuit order? I told you he's a Christian missionary Jesuit. Is there a, this is nothing but an art and culture question. Is there a feast of Saint Francis Xavier every year? Yes, there is. This question is based on one basic peculiarity, nothing more, nothing less. Okay, this is an interesting question. The Nizamat of Erkot emerged out of the Hyderabad state. The Mysore kingdom emerged out of Vijayanagara Empire. Rohilkhand kingdom was formed out of territories occupied by Ahmad Shah Durrani. Which of these statements are correct? Okay. Gokul, I don't know why are you coming with like 15 minutes lag? I told you, Battle of Panipat fought in 1761. Why so empires shaking at Panipat? That's a medieval related concept. I will discuss it in the first Battle of Panipat. Before you, Polukonda had already pushed it, and I already told you. For that, you have to wait for medieval India. Both questions you pointed out were already discussed. Forty-six, 36. Two only. Okay. 14-4. Nizamat of Arcot emerged out of Hyderabad state. Sadadullah Khan got independence as soon as Nizam ul Mulk Asafja came. Correct. Now you have got confused in the second. Mysore kingdom. Hyder Ali captured power from Nanjaraj. Nanjaraj came from. Nanjaraj was ruling in the name of who? Who? Vodeyars. Okay. Chikkadevaraya Vodeyar. Vodeyars were the feudatories or were related to which empire? Vijayanagara Empire. Vijayanagara Empire gave birth to Vodeyar dynasty, and Vodeyar dynasty gave birth to Mysore state. And if you don't know this, then you should know one thing. Ahmad Shah Durrani is nothing but Ahmad Shah Abdali. Was Rohilkhand established by Abdali? Who is the founder of Rohilkhand? Come on, tell me. We're talking about 18th century. Who is the founder of Rohilkhand? Bangash, Muhammad Bangash, or Ali Muhammad Khan? This statement is incorrect. There are only two options, and you got confused over this. Here the answer is A. Now, these questions seem to be difficult if you don't have an understanding of 18th century. Arcot, Nizamat of Arcot means Carnatic state. I told you the capital of Arcot is, the capital of Carnatic state is Arcot. So Nizamat of Arcot is basically nothing but they could have written Carnatic state, but they'd rather write Nizamat of Arcot. That is the way they have tried to distract you. Can I move to the next? Yes, okay. Now this question only needs a very simple attention to detail and you can answer the question. In the first quarter of 17th century, in which of the following were the factories of the East India Company located? Broch, Chikakol, Trinopoli. Hyderabad came out of the Mughals. Hyderabad had Carnatic state within it. Carnatic came out of the Hyderabad state when Nizamul Mulk became independent. Forty-six, 20, 24, 10%. Okay, these 20%, 24%, and 10. BCD. What is first quarter of 17th century mean? What is the date between first quarter of 17th century? Quarter is 25. So it means 1600 to 1625. The British between 1600 and 1625 got which two farmans? 1613 and 15. First gave them Surat, not written. Second was it gave it access to Broch, Mauchlypatnam, Agra, Ahmedabad, and Bengal. Nowhere did talk about Trinopoli. Trinopoli is related to the second Carnatic War. Jahangir Farman, Chikakol is the one which makes it difficult. See, if you remove 3, now you have 2 options. Now, the point is here you have to trust your understanding. Here, you have to trust your understanding. Throughout the initial period, and generally till today, have I talked about Chikakol in any way? See, Shikakol is in Andhra Pradesh. It's the old name of a place called, now it's called Srikakulam. It has 2 to 3 names. Srikulam, Shikakulam. Have I used the word Chikakol? Or in the 1615 or 1613 Farman, I said Chikakol was given. So if you trust me, you would have gone with A. If you don't trust me, then you would like, sir ने एक तो नहीं बताया होगा, पक्का कुछ छोड़ा होगा. So 2 is also there. This is the difference. That is the only difference. If you trust the study material, if you trust the book, if you trust the PPTs, if you trust me, you would have gone with 1. Because if Chikakol was ever given, then it would have automatically been told to you. Chikakol is going to become very late, but doesn't really matter to our story. The catch is to figure out this. Boroch is Gujarat sector. Are we clear about this question? What is the question really about? 2011, 2021, we got 3 questions back to back out of this sector. Yes, sir. Okay, very good. Now, 2020. Wellesley established the Fort William, yes, near Vizag. Yeah. Wellesley established the Fort William College at Calcutta because, 2020 question, he was asked by the board of directors at London to do so. He wanted to revive interest in Oriental learning in India. He wanted to provide William Carey and his associates employment. He wanted to train British civilians for administrative purposes in India. Come on, this everybody should get correct. Yes, Parshuram. Gayatri, think about it again. Perfect. 89%, totally correct. Court of Directors actually asked them to close Fort William College, and it was not Board of Directors, Court of Directors. As it is wrong. Revive interest, no. Wanted to provide William Carey, don't even care who that person is. It's related to ICS training. British civilians, administrative purposes. Easy. Now you see. Which of the following statements correctly explains the impact of Industrial Revolution on India during the first half of 19th century? Indian handicrafts were ruined. Machines were introduced in Indian textile industry in large scale. Railway lines were laid in many parts of the country. Heavy duties were imposed on imports of British manufacturing. Come on. Tell me, Gulam, what is the confusion? 1853. Ravi, 53. I have to teach you that. It will emerge out of Hyderabad, not Mughals, not related to Mughals. It was within the what we call as Hyderabad state. 77% correct. B, little bit optimistic about the British. C and D. C. Please explain. Trinopoli, siege of Trinopoli, in which Muhammad Ali was sitting, Anwaruddin's son. That happens in the period of 1849 to 53 period. 1749 and 1749 to 53 period. That is not the first quarter of 17th century. Yeah, Battle of Ambur. Now this question is very easy. What did industrial revolution do? Deindustrialization. Machines were introduced in Indian textile. Come on, they will never bring something to India like that. Railway lines, basically, this is a positive impact which they're talking. They're asking for a negative impact. You are giving a positive impact, and this will also happen in 1853, which is not in the first half of the 19th century. And third is also never going to happen. Heavy duty was not imposed on British manufacturers' import. Rather, our imports into Britain were heavily duties were imposed. So if check the tone of the question, you have to talk about a negative impact, not a positive impact. Fourth point, heavy duties were imposed on the imports of British manufacturers. No, British manufacturers, free trade, everything were brought in freely. On the other hand, in the Indian side, our manufacturing had very heavy imports or import duties. Are we clear? Are we clear about this? Don't be too optimistic about the British. A little bit more critical about the British. You tell me this. Interesting question. Which one of the following statements does not apply to the system of subsidiary alliance introduced by Lord Wellesley? Does not apply. To maintain a large standing army at others' expense, to keep India safe from Napoleonic danger, to secure a fixed income for the company, to establish British paramountcy over the Indian states. Come on. It's always between B and C, but your ratio is better. It's like 50-40, but 60-29 is a good ratio. Most of you understand Now see, it can't be these two because this was the intended purpose, which is have a standing army, have paramountcy. Now most of you get confused between these two. Was there any clause under subsidiary alliance that the British would receive a set amount of money from the ruler? For the people who answered B, was there any clause like that? To maintain large others expense. Others means the states, Indian states expense. There was no component of a fixed income. They had to just maintain the army. This is not part of what subsidiary alliance was. More than that, I told you that Napoleon means French were always danger to the British. That is why they kept on making sure that the French danger was always mitigated through big military presence. And that is why B is also the intended purpose of the subsidiary alliance. Foreign relations goes under the British, yes, and that is why the French can be undercut by the British. The point is, you should not have got confused only. Again, you should have had faith in what you have learned, that there was all the provisions were discussed with you, and in no provision it says income to be transferred, transfer of income. Nowhere we talked about it. So I hope you get it that why the answer is C, because online there are certain places where they write B, but B can't be the answer. Are we clear why it is C? It can't be B because that was also an intended purpose to make sure that all other European powers are gone, which is French. I'm going to tell you one thing. After you've done world history with me, you will be in a better position to also realize why B. So I know in certain books, even previous year question books, it will say B. B cannot be the answer. So when I will teach you world history, maybe some of you have already gone through world history with me, you would know that Napoleon's continental blockade was a problem. And that is why answering that was the issue. Right? You get my point. Is everybody satisfied why it is C? Because you will find it B for sure. Napoleonic Wars, yes, between 1804 and 1815. Yes or no? Yes, got it. Okay. Now, I think this is the last question. Two more questions. Economically, one of the results of British rule in India in 19th century was the increase in exports of Indian handicrafts, growth in number of Indian-owned factories, commercialization of Indian agriculture, rapid increase in urban population. Now, I want everybody to answer this the right one. Come on, please. But sir, giving Napoleon as a specific word can also make confusion rather than they could write outside danger. But the danger of Portuguese and Dutch was never there only. Napoleon, that specifically referring to the French. That is even more that the examiner is trying to help you and you are trying to say, no, don't tell us which power, we will figure it out. Gayatri, again, you have given Vivek, I don't expect that from you. Tipu and my Napoleon issue. Yes, yes. If you know the fourth Mysore War, you would also know that Napoleon's connection with Tipu is why the whole war happened. Again, Shiva, Vivek, Gayatri, what is happening? Gayatri, last question also, you messed it up. 80% totally correct. I get. Tell me one thing. Why are you उल्टा क्यों पढ़ रहे हो यार? मुझे समझ नहीं आ रहा. Economically, one of the results of the British rule in India in 19th century was increase in export of Indian handicraft. Indian handicraft export increased when the British came, or it's the other way around. It's not about positive, negative. Did the British increase Indian handicraft exports? or they exported more of British handicrafts? Growth, no. No. Isn't commercialization of agriculture an economic impact of British rule? And there's a decrease. We become from a net exporter of Indian handicrafts, what we call as what we call as finished goods, to a raw material exporter. So then the people who have answered A, which is an alarming number, what are you thinking? Tell me the logic. Because if you're saying negative, positive, it doesn't matter. You're factually incorrect. The people who answered A, what was the thought process? What was the thought process? Please tell me. Students who have answered A, I want an answer. Siva, Gayatri, why did you answer A? Because if it is a learning issue, then I will not teach like that. You have to tell me why are people answering A. It's not only 2 people, it is close to 20 people who answered it. These 20 people, is British impacting India in a positive way? What is the difference between 19th century and 19th century? अरे यार ये रोमन इंग्लिश में लिखा हुआ है. 19th and 19th same thing. 19th and 19th same thing. One is written in words and one is written like that, numerically. British Indian revenue to buy ships commodities back, thus increasing exports. British using Indian revenue to buy and ship Indian commodities back to Britain, thus increasing exports. So इतना दूर तक पढ़ा केवल till this point. So what are they exporting? Indian handicrafts. See, these are very dangerous, silly mistakes which you are doing. These are considered literally the easiest questions you will ever get in the examination. Literally the easiest. Answer this, and this checks your understanding. The staple commodities of export by the British East India Company in the middle of 18th century were raw cotton, oilseed, opium, sugar, salt, zinc, lead, copper, silver, gold, spices, tea, cotton, silk, saltpeter, and opium. So though export got increased after British impact, so usually was decrease. Export increase by the British is a loss for India. So yes, it increased, but does it say that it is Indian handicraft export increase? See, Zada, this is called overthinking. You're literally trying to become Sherlock Holmes, which makes no sense. As always, A and B. A and D. See, middle of 18th century would be how, what? Exactly the middle of 18th century is what day? What year? 1750. Has Plassey Buxar happened? Has Plassey and Buxar happened? No. Now, before the British came, did we send raw cotton or did we send cotton? Raw cotton after middle of 18th century. in the middle of 18th century, it is cotton. This is what the point which was I'm trying to make. These are just to distract you. Cotton had to be there. So the answer is A. The answer is D. A would be if it says in the end of 18th century or in the first half of 19th century. Saltpeter is something which is added to barud or gunpowder. Now in 2023, before I leave you for today, before you go for lunch, 2023 there was a question that who, and this is a previous year question, who handed over due to the Portuguese? I'm giving you two options, A or B. Muhammad Beghara and Bahadur Shah. Please answer. This is a 2023 question. Other options, two more options are there. I've already removed them for you. Come on. I'm damn confident about this question in this year prelims. It was already there in 2023. Yeah, it's a previous year question. Oh, acha, Tina. Perfect. सी तो ऑप्शन ही नहीं है. Who are these two people? Who are these 3%? सी तो ऑप्शन ही नहीं है. Battle of Dew happened under Muhammad Beghara. Chaul and Battle of Dew. Bahadur Shah handed it over to Nino de Cunha. Remember, the examiner was checking, if you remember, who this is 1535, the whole Humayun issue. And Kamba, understand one thing, Bahadur Shah 1 or Bahadur Shah Zafar. If it is not indicated that it is Zafar, then it has to be Bahadur Shah 1 only. This is a implied straightforward concept. What you are doing is called overthinking beyond exception. Now, don't do that. Don't do that. If it is not specified, leaderboard. So 9 questions were asked. Ravi 90, Deepika 90, Navya Gayatri 90, Tina 90, Parshuram 90, and Anuranjan Bhardwaj 90. Thereafter, Pradeep, Narendra, Akash, Simran, Gulam, 1 question wrong, Shreyas, Govind, Shilpa, Janista, Niranjan, Megha, Krishnakaran, Kirtana, and Kumkum Jain. So these are the ones. 1 question wrong. See, I really don't care about it. This is only your previous year questions which are there. Only previous year questions are there. So not really important that ways. Now we finish this session. When we come back, we have to discuss education policy and constitutional development. Now, one very simple, straightforward point, because I've got now 15-20 requests about this. We'll come back at 2:15. The students who want to watch the first 15 minutes, first 3 overs, watch it. We start at 2:15, but I will vasulo back this 15 minutes somewhere else. So the toss I think would not have happened, but you will know by 1:45 or something. 15 minutes. I am not a monster. I'm giving you can watch. But we come back at 2:15 and we go on till 5:30 then. Done? Then in between I will not give a break. Okay? Yes, sir. Okay. So at 2:15, have a good lunch and pray for India. Okay. Bye-bye. Where to watch? Recording is available. अरे मैच की बात हो रही है. Not mine is obviously recording is available. See you.